Welcome to Relation Tales. Please like this video and subscribe Relation Tales. We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. I always thought betrayal would come crashing into my life loudly, shouting, arguments slammed doors. But it arrived quietly, like a slow leak in a ceiling you don't see until the whole thing collapses. That evening, our house smelled like simmering pasta and garlic bread, but the warmth stopped at the kitchen doorway. I was plating dinner when Carla rushed past me, still in her navy office dress, clutching her phone like it was oxygen. She didn't greet me, didn't glance at the food, didn't even notice I'd been waiting for her for an hour. Instead, she ducked toward the hallway, her voice dropping to a hush, too quiet to make out first. I moved closer, not out of paranoia, but because every instinct inside me screamed that something wasn't right. And then I heard it. A soft laugh. A whisper. Her tone. The same one she used to save for me. "Adam, stop teasing. I told you he's home." My stomach clenched. Adam. Her boss. She talked about him often enough. How ambitious he was. How driven. How impressive under pressure. She thought she said those words casually. She didn't realize how her voice changed every time his name slipped out. That night, I heard the truth hiding inside that tone. Her foot tapped nervously. She twirled a strand of hair, something she hadn't done with me in years. She giggled like a woman rediscovering excitement she shouldn't be feeling. I stepped back before she caught me listening, but not before I saw something small and metallic bounce across the hardwood floor. Her wedding ring. She didn't even realize it slipped off. I picked it up slowly, turning it between my fingers. That ring had seen our happiest days, our struggles, our promises. But that night, holding it felt like holding a lie. She came out of the hallway moments later, pretending to stretch, pretending nothing happened. When she finally noticed me, her expression shifted into a forced smile that didn't touch her eyes. "You look tired, Mark," she said, her voice too sweet, too quick. "I have to run back to the office. Big meeting tomorrow. Adam needs a lot of help." I finished quietly. Her eyes flicked up sharply. "What?" I didn't answer. My silence made her uncomfortable, which told me more than words would have. She grabbed her purse, avoided my gaze, and hurried toward the door. "Don't wait up," she tossed over her shoulder, like that was normal. The door clicked behind her, and the house felt emptier than it ever had. The pasta cooled, the garlic bread hardened, and the ring, her ring, lay heavy in my palm. I sat there for a long moment, letting the truth settle in my bones. She wasn't drifting away from me. She was running toward someone else. But here's the thing about betrayal. When I break, I don't shatter. I sharpen. I didn't yell. I didn't question her. I didn't accuse her of anything. I simply pulled out my phone, opened my contacts, and found a name I had saved months ago, but never expected to use. Emily Turner, Adam's wife. My thumb hovered for a second. Then I called. She answered immediately, her voice calm, warm, unsuspecting. "Hi, this is Emily." I took a slow breath. "Emily, I think we need to talk." Her tone changed instantly. "Is this about Carla and Adam?" That was the moment I knew I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't alone. Emily wasn't surprised. She was waiting, and what she told me in that moment made my pulse thunder in my ears. But that's for later, because that was the night I stopped being the quiet husband who waited at home. That was the night I began planning a revenge so quiet, so precise, so devastating. It would make both of them rethink the meaning of loyalty. And it all started with one phone call. Emily didn't sound shocked. She didn't gasp, didn't question why I was calling, didn't even hesitate. Her voice came through steady, almost resigned, like she'd been living with a quiet ache long before I dialed her number. "Mark," she said softly, "I've been waiting for someone to finally tell me the truth." I froze. "What truth?" "That my husband isn't loyal," she answered. "That he's not the man he pretends to be at home." Her honesty hit hard, not because it was surprising, but because it mirrored exactly what I felt. We talked for 20 minutes. Not gossip, not anger, just two people tracing the outlines of the same wound. Emily told me how she noticed Adam coming home, freshly showered after late meetings. How he suddenly bought expensive cologne he'd never worn in their 10 years of marriage. How he guarded his phone like it held state secrets. Then came the detail that made my jaw clench. He started booking hotel rooms for work she said. Rooms that magically disappear from the billing record later. I felt something inside me tighten. Carla's been staying at the office late too often. There was a silence between us. Uncomfortable, heavy, real. What do you want to do? Emily finally asked. And that was the moment I made a decision I'd been avoiding for weeks. I don't want to scream or fight, I said. I want them to be confronted with the truth when they least expect it. Emily's tone sharpened with understanding. You want a controlled reveal, not chaos. Exactly, I replied. Her voice lowered, a hint of steel beneath the softness. Then, Mark, I think I can help you. We met the next day in a quiet cafe on the edge of town. Not in secret, not in darkness, just two married people whose spouses thought they were fools. Emily Turner was nothing like I imagined. She wasn't fragile. She wasn't devastated. She was composed, intelligent, and painfully aware of who she was married to. Adam thinks I don't notice things, she said, stirring her tea with calm, deliberate movements. He thinks I'm too polite to ever ask questions. But politeness isn't stupidity. I nodded. Carla thinks I'm predictable, that I'll always trust her, that I won't look deeper. Emily's eyes lifted to mine, steady, determined. Then you and I have something in common. For a moment, we sat there silently, connected by a betrayal neither of us asked for. She pulled out a small folder from her bag and laid it on the table. What's this? I asked. Evidence, she said. I've been collecting it for months. Inside were printed hotel confirmations, credit card screenshots, and even grainy security footage stills of Adam entering a hotel lobby with a woman. Her face partially hidden by a scarf, but unmistakably Carla's posture, her hairstyle, her coat. The pit in my stomach hardened. I stared at the images as the cafe noise faded into the background. Not rage, not panic, just quiet clarity. They think they're clever, Emily said. They're not. She wasn't bitter. She was focused, composed, and heartbreakingly strong. It made me wonder how long she'd suffered alone. I took a breath. I want them to realize they built their betrayal on lies, and that their lies are about to cave in. Emily leaned forward slightly. Then let's plan this properly. And we did. We walked through timelines. We tracked their meetings. We noted the evenings they both suddenly became unavailable. We even checked the day conference rooms were conveniently double-booked, forcing them to work elsewhere. Piece by piece, our suspicions connected like puzzle fragments sliding into place. Then Emily said something that changed everything. Tomorrow, Adam has another late meeting, oddly scheduled right after Carla's team leaves the building. My pulse lifted. Carla had already mentioned she might be home late tomorrow. They think they're discreet, Emily continued, but they're repetitive. I closed the folder, feeling a newfound sense of purpose. Then tomorrow is the day. She nodded. I'll come to your house after their meeting is supposed to start. Call it a friendly visit. And when Carla walks through the door, I said, finishing the thought. Emily stared at me with an unwavering calm. She'll see something she never expected, the truth sitting in her living room. We agreed on the time. The plan was simple, clean, devastating. No shouting, no confrontation in public, no scenes that could spiral out of control. Just surgical precision. That night, while I cooked dinner alone again, Carla floated around the house humming softly, packing another neatly pressed blouse, applying perfume she didn't use for me. She kissed my cheek absently, like checking off a task, and said, Adam just needs some extra support. Big meeting tomorrow. I didn't react. I didn't flinch. I didn't ask questions. I simply looked at her with a calmness she mistook for trust. Be safe, I said. Her smile deepened, too eager. Always. As she walked out, I noticed something new. Her phone wasn't in her hand. Her coat pocket bulged slightly. She was hiding everything now. But soon, she would be hiding nothing. Because the next evening, she wouldn't come home to a quiet house or a trusting husband. She would walk into a room where her lies sat waiting for her. Hands folded, tea steaming, truth ready to be spoken. And for the first time in months, I felt like I wasn't the one losing. The next day felt like moving through thick air. Every minute stretched, every sound sharpened, every heartbeat louder. I worked my shift at the auto shop with my hands covered in grease, but my mind stayed locked on the evening ahead. Every engine I tuned, every brake pad I replaced, every customer I greeted, It all blurred into background noise behind the single truth echoing in my head. Tonight, Carla would finally face herself. When I clocked out, the sky was painted with late afternoon gold melting into deep blue. My stomach churned, not from fear, but from the weight of clarity. Betrayal, once confirmed, changes a person. It doesn't harden you immediately. It hollows you first. But once the emptiness settles, something else grows there. Resolve. I drove home slowly, gripping the steering wheel tighter than usual. The house felt different when I walked in. Quiet, still like it was holding its breath. I cleaned up the living room, lit a soft candle, set the kettle on the stove. I didn't want a scene to look staged or dramatic. I wanted to look normal, warm, comfortable. A place where the truth could sit gently, before unfolding harshly. At exactly 6:35 p.m., my doorbell rang. I opened it to see Emily Turner, wrapped in a beige coat, her dark hair tucked neatly behind her ears. She looked calm, but her eyes held a depth I recognized. Years of disappointment compressed into quiet strength. "Evening," she said, stepping in. "Are you ready?" "I've been ready for months," I replied. She gave a faint, sad smile. "Then let's finish this." I brewed tea while she set her bag on the couch. Not the bag with evidence. She didn't bring that. We didn't need to shove printed proof in their faces. Truth is far more powerful when it speaks calmly. She sat with her back straight, legs crossed, hands gently cupping the warm teacup as steam curled around her face. It wasn't confrontational. It was composed. As we waited, she asked, "Do you still love Carla?" The question hit me harder than I expected. "I love the woman I married," I answered slowly. "I don't know who she is now." Emily nodded, staring into her cup. "I love Adam too. But loving someone doesn't mean tolerating betrayal." There was no bitterness in her voice, just honesty. Brutal honesty. We sat in silence for a moment. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Carla. "Running late again. Helping Adam finalize tomorrow's materials. I'll be home after 8. I exhaled softly. There was again the same script she always used. Emily leaned over, glanced at the screen, and shook her head with a quiet laugh. "At least they're consistent with their lies." "Consistency," I murmured, "is exactly how they get caught." We continued waiting. At 7:52 p.m., headlights flashed across the driveway. Emily straightened. I stood from the opposite end of the room. The soft sound of keys jingling at the door felt like thunder. When Carla walked in, the first thing she noticed was the extra pair of shoes by the mat. Her brow creased. Then she heard the soft clink of ceramic from the living room. "Mark," she called, voice light and strained. "Are we having company?" She stepped into view and froze. Emily Turner lifted her gaze from the teacup, her expression composed, almost gentle. Carla's hand flew to her chest, her breath catching. She looked between us, her eyes darting wildly as confusion battled with realization. What's going on?" she whispered. I didn't answer. I wanted Emily to speak first. She placed her teacup on the saucer with a quiet click. "Carla," she said softly, "we should talk about something. Something you've tried very hard to keep hidden." Carla's face drained of color. "Emily, this isn't. Why are you?" I watched her unravel as Emily continued, her voice steady, not harsh. "You told Adam no one would ever find out about that hotel suite. But lies have a way of surfacing when you least expect them." Carla staggered back a step, her purse nearly slipping from her shoulder. Her breathing turned shallow, her eyes wide with panic. I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered. She always thought she was clever. She always thought she could twist words, deflect, deny. But this time, her voice betrayed her before the evidence ever could. Emily didn't argue. She didn't raise her tone. She just looked at my wife the way a mother might look at a child who'd been caught doing something they swore they never would. "You don't need to admit anything," Emily said. "Your silence is already doing that." Carla turned her eyes to me, searching for familiarity, softness, mercy. She found none. "Mark, this isn't what it looks like," she pleaded. The oldest, weakest line in the world. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. Her panic deepened as she looked again at Emily, realizing the ground beneath her feet was gone. Finally, she asked the question she never wanted the answer to. "How much do you know?" Emily exhaled through her nose in a small, almost indifferent sigh. "Enough," she said. Carla swayed on her feet, her confidence crumbling like wet paper. And that was when she realized she was no longer in control. The air in the room thickened as the truth hovered, ready to land. But the real blow, the real reveal, the real revenge, that was still coming. Carla's breathing turned uneven, like she was trying to swallow air that refused to stay down. She kept looking between us, between the calm wife of her boss and the husband who suddenly wasn't so blind, like she had stepped into the wrong house. This is insane, she whispered. You're both making assumptions. I wasn't. Emily gently lifted a hand, cutting her off without raising her voice. Carla, you don't have to explain. This isn't about convincing me. It's about finally being honest with yourself. Carla opened her mouth again, but no words came out this time. Her throat was tight. Her hand shook. Her mask slipped entirely. I stood there, arms crossed loosely, not out of aggression, just quiet strength. Strength she didn't expect me to have. You lied to me, I finally said. My voice wasn't loud. It was steady, controlled. For months. Carla let out a small, choke sound. Mark, please, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. My words came out with a clarity that surprised both of us. You stopped coming home on time. You guarded your phone. You smelled like hotel shampoo instead of your own. You were laughing at messages you wouldn't let me see. You traded our marriage for someone else's attention. Her eyes filled with tears instantly. It wasn't like that. Emily raised an eyebrow, just slightly. Not mocking, not harsh. Just truth seeing truth. Carla broke. It wasn't supposed to mean anything, she said, voice cracking. I was just lonely. And Adam, he noticed me. He appreciated me. I didn't think it would go that far. That far, Emily repeated quietly, her expression unreadable. Like the hotel suite. Carla flinched like she'd been struck. Not physically, but emotionally, in the place where guilt lives. It wasn't a relationship, she said quickly, wiping at her face. It was just, I was confused. No, I said softly. You were selfish. Her head dropped. She didn't try to defend that one. Because it was true. For a long moment, no one spoke. The house held the silence like it was listening. Carla finally whispered, Why is she here? Why did you bring her? Emily answered before I could. Because betrayal shouldn't be handled in dark corners or hidden hallways, she said. It deserves daylight, and honesty, and finality. Carla's shoulders sagged. She looked like a child waiting for a punishment she knew she deserved. I took a slow breath, steadying myself before speaking. I didn't call Emily for drama, I said. I called her because I needed clarity, and because you and Adam built your lies together. You'll face the truth together too. Emily deserves to know. I deserve to know. And you deserve to face what you've done. Carla's tears rolled freely now. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't think. That's the problem, I said. You didn't think about me, or our marriage, or commitments. You thought about excitement, about attention, about someone who made you feel admired. And you threw away everything we had for moments you can't even justify. She covered her face, sobbing into her palms. Emily didn't pity her, but she didn't enjoy it either. She watched with the quiet empathy of someone who had once cried the same tears alone in a parking lot at midnight. Then Emily turned to me. Mark, she said softly, you want a moment of truth. You have it now. What you do next, that's your closure. I nodded. This was the part one had rehearsed in my mind dozens of times. Not screaming, not name-calling, not dramatic threats, just resolution. I walked to the kitchen counter and picked up a simple manila envelope. Inside weren't legal papers or printed evidence, just something far more powerful. I handed it to Carla. With trembling hands, she opened it. Inside were her own messages, screenshots I had taken over the last few weeks. Her excuses, her shifts in tone, the late-night texts she thought she had deleted fast enough, the ones confirming everything. Carla looked up at me with eyes wide and terrified. Why did you save these? So I wouldn't convince myself I imagined any of it. I answered, voice steady. So I wouldn't let you tell me I misunderstood. So I wouldn't gaslight myself into believing my instincts were wrong. She sank onto the couch, shoulders shaking. What happens now? She whispered. Emily stood and picked up her coat, giving me a quiet nod, a signal that the rest was for me to handle. That, I said, turning back to Carla, depends on whether you can accept the truth without trying to rewrite it. She looked broken, vulnerable, stripped of every lie she hid behind. "I'll do anything," she said. "I'll fix this. Stop." I held up a hand. "You can't fix trust with desperation. You fix it with honesty, consistency, and respect. 3 things you didn't give me." Carla's breath hitched. "So is this it? Are you leaving?" "For now," I said. "I'm stepping back. I need space. And so do you." Her face crumpled. "Mark, please. This isn't punishment," I said gently. "It's accountability." Emily stepped toward the door. Before leaving, she paused and looked at Carla. "Remember," she said quietly, "affairs don't end marriages. Lying does." Then she walked out. I followed a moment later, grabbing my jacket. Carla reached for me, but I stepped back. "I need time," I repeated. "If you want any hope of rebuilding anything, start by rebuilding yourself." I left her standing in the living room that had once felt like ours, but now belonged to a version of her I didn't recognize. Outside, the air felt lighter. Not happy, not relieved, just honest. My revenge wasn't destroying her. It wasn't humiliating her. It wasn't ruining her life. It was letting her face exactly what she'd done, in a room where every lie finally had nowhere left to hide.